Hi everyone, Justin Rondo here, and in this video, we're going to discuss more in depth advanced segmentation and how to actually do it. So I know I showed you a few stills in the previous video talking about the power of segmentation, and I even gave you an example of how we went after lab members who hadn't purchased our paid certificate program. But really what I want to dig into here is kind of show you what you're going to be doing in your analytics platform, specifically Google Analytics, and what sort of data you can gather from this, and also how to create segments from just the view of digging through the tool rather than just from a few screenshots. All right, so we're going to sign into Google Analytics, and here we are. I'm going to pick the correct account. All right, so as some of you are probably familiar with, when you log into Google Analytics, you see your dashboard, and this is just giving me my audience overview at the time, where you can see we have 491 sessions in the past month, 268,000 users. Getting close to a million page views, pages per sessions 1.96, average duration 2 minutes and 36 seconds, bounce rate of 57%, and percent new sessions 45. So just under half of the people coming to the site are new. All right, and so I'm going to stay in the overview section. I really just kind of want to start digging into segmentation. So to get there, you go up here right above the graph, and you'll see all sessions, and you'll want to go to add segment. And as I said in my previous presentation, there's different types of segments that are in here. There's the system segments, which have things like bounce sessions, converters, direct traffic, made a purchase. And then we have custom, which are the ones we create. So we have things for, our cert cart control and cert content variation 1. So this is actually from a split test. We have things for our double your sales, dollar trial conversion, etc. Shared is if someone's sharing, are the segments that you share with people or being shared with. Starred are your favorite segments, and then selected are the selected ones at the time. So let's actually pull up a few different segments here. So let me show you one from system. Okay, so let's go to made a purchase, and notice what it says there when you're highlighting it. It's saying transactions are greater than 1. And so far in Google Analytics, we only really look at our trial conversion rates that are coming through from a purchase perspective. And take a look at this. So of the 491 people there, we see 15,000 people made a purchase. And so this is just, strictly from trial, DM Lab, upsell, and DM Lab yearly that we're looking at here. We're not looking at any of the execution plans at this time. And so we're actually getting some information about the user base, how many pages they're on. So people that make a purchase are on about 4.2 pages. That is significantly more than the standard session, and they spend almost 4 times the amount of time on the site when they make a purchase. And bounce rate's significantly lower, but there also are less likely to be new sessions that actually purchase. So that's something important here. So that's an interesting insight right there, that it takes, the new visitor isn't the highest converting side. So there's about 85% of people that purchase are return visitors. If you just look at the inverse right here at made a purchase. All right, so I'm now curious. Let's go back into the system here. So let's look at this, and let's go to selected and take off made a purchase. Go back to system. Okay, and now let's look at something. I just want to look at new user versus returning user. Okay, and we'll take off all sessions completely here. So let's just look at new user versus returning. Okay, cool. So we saw from the purchase perspective that they're less likely to purchase if they are a new visitor. Okay, and so even further, if you take a look at a returning user versus a new user here, returning users from an engagement perspective spend far much more time with more page views, and they bounce less. Okay, so that's really important here. And with that other piece of data that return visitors actually are more likely to purchase, we realize that we need to start trying to get people back to the site and get them back quickly. All right, so that's just something you can learn from a basic audience overview of more detailed segments. Okay, so let's get out of the return users and new user. Let's pull those out. And let's actually, I'll bring all sessions back in here, but let's actually start talking about the segments that we have in here. So I want to actually create a new segment and show you how it works. So you have three options, well, four options really. You can either select the segments you have, create a new segment, import from the gallery, or share the segments that are there. All right, so in this case, what I want to do is I actually want to create a segment. So let's go to new segment. All right, and so there's a lot of stuff that you can play with in here. So there's standard segmentation devices that you have here. And one would be, the first one being demographics. So you can segment your user by demographic information. So you see here age, so we can get the different age brackets that are there. We can go gender, female, male. We can get into language. And when you do the drop down here, there's like exactly, matches, contains, starts with, ends with, matches, regex is one of. So you have a lot of different types of ways to qualify who you're going to see. You can get into affinity, in-market segments, other categories, and location. So if you're just looking for people like in the UK, in the US, or Australia. So when we were running our Traffic and Conversion Summit Australia ads, we definitely wanted to dig into our Australia segments to see how they perform on the site, and then also to retarget them later on. All right, now, so we can also look into technology. So this is where you can segment your user sessions by their web and mobile technology. So you can look at things like the operating system version, browsers, device category, etc. Okay, and as you start clicking these, you'll notice that in this summary section, right now it says 100% of users because we've made no segmentation, right? And so let's say we just went for 25 to 34. So that goes down to 15.75% of users. Now, one way to know you're kind of screwing up with your segment is when it goes all the way down to 0. You know there's something wrong there because that's saying that nobody meets that criteria. So either you made a case where it's impossible to be a part of that segment, or you actually just don't have it. It's normally the former rather than the latter, though. But let's take out this 25 to 34. Okay. Now, let's look at some other things. Behavior. So this is actually going to give you information on how they interact with your site, how many sessions. So you can say sessions are equal to, not equal to, greater than, less than or equal to, less than or greater than equal to. So that'll give you an idea about the sessions. You can also get days since last session. So if you want somebody who hasn't come to the site, and if you want to see the amount of people that haven't come to the site in 7 days, you can actually have something really powerful there. So I could say somebody who's visited lab and somebody who hasn't been to the site in 7 days. So this is a lab member that has both is a lab member and is not as engaged in the last week. This could be a retargeting segment we can go after to try to get them engaged again on the site with retargeted ads. So actually, let's actually take a look and see what that one might just look like. All right. So let's say days since last session equals 7. And so what that's going to do for us is it's going to say there's 4,358 users that haven't been to the site. That's been 7 days since their last session. So now I'm going to have to go into conditions real quick, and I'll give you an overview briefly about the rest of these things. But I just want to show you just what we're able to do here. So let's say page contains, we want users / lab. So there's 887 lab users that haven't been back in the past 7 days. So that's very telling. Okay, so that we could take this segment, and after we create it, so I can say, let me put it this way: lab members missing 7 days. All right, we could save this. Okay. And after it saves, one of the things we can do is we can drop down there and we can build an audience and push that into Google Analytics, and then actually retarget them on both the Google network as well as the display network to try to get them back in. So if you have a subscription model, this is very powerful from an ad perspective and understanding this type of user. But also take a look at the type of lab members here, where they spend they see the most amount of content, pages per session, spend the most amount of time, and yeah, so it's very, very telling. And like they have the very, very low new visitor rate. Okay, so that's just a great way to start really digging into segmentation. So let me remove that and I want to now finish explaining a little bit more about the segments themselves. So new segment. So we were in behavior. So date of first session, this is another way to kind of take a look at in the period of time that you're in. Say you ran a promotion and you're worried, or you have a stellar piece of content and you're worried that people accessing your site never got to see it. So you could create a segment based off of that time period where you ran that would have missed that promotion or piece of content, and then you could retarget from there. And also understand. So I'm talking about this from a retargeting perspective in some regards, but this is also another way to really dig down into some important segments and understand how they interact with your site, and then try to get more people to fit within that model. So now we have also traffic sources, which we'll look at the different mediums and sources and keywords and whatnot. E-commerce, if you have e-commerce turned on, you can start looking at transaction IDs, the actual revenue. You can go by per user, per session, per hit, and then also equal to, not equal to, etc. Days to transaction, how many days did it take for them to do it? You can go down to a product level or even a product category level. So that's also very useful. If you're pushing e-commerce data, you need to start really digging in to your advanced segments here to get a better understanding of what products are working, where are your whales, where are the people that are spending the most money, how can you get them to spend more, how can you ascend people to becoming like those whales, so to say. And then now we have the more advanced areas here, which are conditions and sequences. So conditions is you set a standard for, they have to meet all of this criteria in order to be a part of this segment. Whereas sequences are, they need to follow a certain sequence to do it. So let's look at conditions first. Let's say I want to look for for people who have consumed a certain piece of content in Digital Marketer Lab, specifically our content engine, but haven't purchased our content cert. All right, so the content engine in that funnel on the back end, we actually do push the content cert. So people who have purchased the execution plan a la carte would have actually seen this offer. But also, people who are interested in content marketing and our lab members are people who have a particular interest and are also current customers. So it's much easier to sell to a current customer than it is to sell to somebody who is not a customer. So what I want to do is I'll qualify this by using pages. You can do all sorts of things here when you're setting your conditions. You can go from the acquisition points like referral path, source media, medium, anything there, behavior, different e-commerce settings. Really, you can dig in very deep, even from goal levels. But let's say just for this example, I'm going to be using page just because that's the easiest to, I think, make a case. So let's get to users again, and I see have this page contains the slug from our content engine EP, which I have right here. So let's actually make this down to users contains. So watch this change here. So now we see there's 1,880 users here that have visited the Create Your Content Engine execution plan in the last month. All right, perfect. So I need this, and I'm going to need the next page. So I want them to have seen this page, but not see the actual confirmation page. And so there's 3 different confirmation pages we can have. And so I need to make sure I account for all of them. So here is the first. And so see, it's with contains where we see 0 there. There's something wrong, but does not contain. There we go. So we have 1,885 people. So now let's get to the next one. Does not contain. We need OTO2. All right. Or let's get the last one. And so there's 1,873 people, right, that have seen the Create Your Content Engine EP, but have not seen these pages, which are the 3 possible thank you pages that they could see. So we can turn this into a dynamic audience that we can then remarket to, but we can also take a look at how they interact with the site. So let's say, so this is cert, content engine. cert content engine. So we can take a look at this here. So let's name this cert content engine no content cert. You'll probably want a better naming convention for that, but this is just for the time being. And we can start digging into what type of user this is, all right? And we can see the pages they look at. Let me get rid of all of these, and let's just really dig in to this one segment, okay? Okay, so of there's one what this is pulled in. There's 1,935 users that fit this criteria, and so they're all highly engaged. All right, they are return, like 95% of them are return visitors. So they fit our buyer model because they were once buyers. Okay, so now this is actually a highly actionable group. So let's actually see what type of content they like, and we can also learn a bit more about them. So let's look at the content they like, at the pages they consume. So obviously lab, login, create your content engine. They go to the blog a lot. Okay, they look at a lot of our other courses that are in there. So they're highly engaged with our content. And it might just be that life got in the way and they weren't ready to purchase at the time. So let's also take a look at specifically where they. So let's take a look at specifically who these people are. So let's dig into their demographics. Okay, so they're mostly in the 35 to 44 range, with the following up being 25 to 34. Far more male than female at 71%. Okay, interesting. So let's actually go into geo. There might be a language barrier. We don't know. It's likely going to be highly based in the States. So yeah, US, Great Britain kind of going down there as well. So we're just going to gather some more information and see how it fits into our standard personas that we have for them. All right, we can also take a look into, there's some things in beta including cohort analysis that we can take a look at. And so we can look at acquisition dates and all sorts of fun stuff. But I think when you're thinking about segments, this is more just data for data's sake. Like, we can dig into this as much as we want. What I think is most important is this button right here that lets you build the audience and then retarget and remarket to them. All right, let's actually build up another segment. So let me change this. So we'll just go to all and we'll look at audience overview again. All right, and so let's create one more segment. All right. In conditions. All right, so let's go to page. Page contains. So I want this to be the question I'm trying to answer here is I want people who are interested in paid traffic content, so paid traffic content, and have not purchased our cert. All right, because they're again highly qualified. So we have Boomerang Traffic Plan, one of our courses, and then let's get another. Social list building. All right, so that gets up to about 1,648. All right, now let's add the and factor in here, and we want a does not contain because we don't want them to have purchased. Okay, and then we'll do the or again with 2, and then one more or with that thank you. And we've now built up another segment where we can try to go after people who are highly interested in our paid traffic execution plans, but haven't taken the plunge into our paid traffic certification, which is again another great way to retarget to people. So overall, I mean, segmentation is a great way for you to find opportunity areas and find ways to learn more about your customer and your visitors, and then to find ways to get them the information they need at the right time. All right, and then I think the last thing we didn't look at here was sequences. So sequences are great if you're building up a particular funnel. So let me take off these conditions. And so we could build in sequences here that would go to make sure that people go in a certain way. And you have an option. So let's build out one of our acquisition funnels. I'm still going to go to the page level here. Okay, so go to page, contains. I want it to be social swipe funnel. And we'll see we have 38,000 users that have hit this. So this is one of our more popular ones. All right, so now I want to add a step. And you have the choice for say is followed by or is immediately followed by. Is followed by will be that this page showed up sometime after this page, whereas immediately followed by it has to be the next one. So I'm going to keep this loose for now and just stick with is followed by. Okay, so the next step in this funnel is for them to actually download the lead magnet, which is what that landing page is for. So we go from 38,000 down to 12,000. All right. So that's a significant drop off there. All right, so now add a new step. We'll keep is followed by, again at the page level. Contains. And so at contains, we want it to be what's coming next. The next thing would be the add to cart for the social selling EP. So let's see if they get to that. That's 803 people. All right, cool. So now this is just add to cart. We want to make sure people that actually purchased. So let's go to that. So we need to actually pick page again. Contains. And we'll add that. Then or. And we'll add 2.php. Or. Put that, and then I know it's the last one is a thank you .php. All right, perfect. So that's our sequence. So now we can have a sequence here of people who completed our funnel to the tripwire, so that they've actually purchased they've gone from a lead to a particular purchasee. All right, so that's how sequences work. And then you can also, after you have that sequence finished, you can take a look at users that complete this sequence, what they do throughout a period of time in your analytics suite. So this is actually a good way to dig into your conversion funnels and say, all right, what's going on here, and really understand the audience that is completing your funnel. So let's actually save this. So cert sequence social swipe funnel. All right, so let's pull this in. And now we can actually get an understanding about these types of visitors. Okay, so I mean, it's a small bit of traffic, but people who go through our funnels average 4.06. I mean, and we listed at least 4 pages there, so they're hitting at least those. And what I'm actually would be interesting to see how many of these are return visitors. So go into behavior, new versus returning, and they can hash that out as well, where again, people that go through our different funnels and our sequences are highly return visitors. So all segments do is it changes the data source, essentially. So rather than just having these particular averages that you're then digging through their behavior and their demographics, and you're just getting the middle rung, what this will do is it actually lets you see at a very granular level about different customers and customer types. So that is essentially how segmentation works in Google Analytics. If you use real-time personalization, then this stuff's kind of taken care of for you, and there's tons of different tools you can use for that out there. But I think this is a great experiment to better understand your audience and then create some really cool retargeting campaigns in your AdWords account. All right, so that's it for this example, and I hope you enjoyed it, and happy optimizing.